Are they spying on us?
Is technology a bad thing?
Can you guess it?
Welcome to the TVA show.
Welcome everybody
Pew, 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 pew.
to another exciting TBA show with your host who does the most, even when he makes toast, the one, the only, DJ Stones. And with me here,
It's me. I almost lost my LinkedIn. It's me. The one and only, the DJ with the most style, the stylistic one. The one who has an NFT coming soon.
you have an NFT coming
Coming soon. I have a picture that I'm gonna sell.
Oh.
It's called an NFT.
You know, there's an interesting site that allows you to make, buy, and sell NFTs.
Yeah, I saw that. I just think it's dumb. But anyway, as we digress,
As we
it's me,
digress.
your boy, the DJ. I'm kind of forgetting my name, but the DJ, DJ Sim.
Just to help you there.
Thanks, man. What up?
Yeah, and we have an exciting show in store for you. And we're about to start up our own startup.
Yeah.
The startup.
And we're gonna sell NFTs.
You know, it's actually not a bad startup idea, eh?
To sell NFTs.
Yeah, so you buy them when they're superbly cheap and then you sell them off.
The day I buy an NFT is the day I probably join a Ponzi scheme also.
Do you know it's one of the most expensive NFTs out there?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a Minecraft picture of, I think, either a cat or a granny. Art.
At this point, this is just a bubble waiting to burst. There's no way we're at this point
Art.
where we think.
It's the crypto art.
You know, I remember hearing someone explain it to, Yes, Quentin Tarantino, my favorite director. And
Yeah.
they're basically like, it's an image on the internet and stuff. He's like, okay, can't you just save it from the... It's like, yeah, you can. But because you have software that actually knows, it looks at the back end of the image and stuff and knows that there's a specific code that's in it that makes it different, and specifically yours, who no, yours is a knockoff. He's like, so? But you still have an image, right? They're like, yeah. It's like, yeah. I'm like...
Look, a nice explanation to what makes it so nice was I was watching a YouTube video that explained it. It's like art, you know. Everybody nowadays can have a picture of the Mona Lisa on their wall. You just go into Google Mona Lisa, print it out, and then put it on your wall, right? But nobody has the original Mona Lisa on their wall. It only belongs at a museum, and if another museum wants to buy the Mona Lisa so they can have it, it's not gonna be two rand or 3 rand or $2 or $3. So I'm saying that's the same view people have on it.
But it's not technically the original artwork, though. The original artwork would be in the artist's hands, technically.
So you see, NFTs, basically, I feel like we're now digressing the show before even the show starts. NFTs, how it works is you actually do get the original version or the original copy of that piece of thing.
But what if it was physical and then converted into digital?
So you have the first digital copy. No, but you see, a lot of these things are made digitally. It's not created and then printed onto it.
Yeah, you see, that's my problem. And then the value is basically exactly like how art works then.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem lies. So you can't really call this serious, because at least art, it's physical. A lot of effort went into creating it. And a lot of it right now, you say artwork, I don't see NFTs as art. I think that's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
You've seen them. This is not art.
I think, okay, art is abstract, so never mind.
No, it's not that art is abstract, but you look at the pieces, and would you consider that beautiful? Yeah, if you got the digital copy, the first digital copy of the Mona Lisa, it's a beautiful piece. I was like, flip, that's sick. Now you have a chimp. I'm like,
have you seen that's one of the most expensive art pieces? It's a red square.
It's abstract. It's beautiful to some, but a chimp is like what you described as the most expensive NFT.
One of the most expensive NFTs.
That's just a hype.
Yeah,
you can't lie.
Yeah,
that's just because of hype. I'm
hype.
just like,
because there's another interesting thing that's happening where it's called D-apps. Go more into depth in it when we speak about decentralized web and stuff, right? But basically, there's an app on there where it's a cat game where you can buy a cat, right? Which is basically an NFT.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
And what can happen now is
with the rainbow up, it's yeah.
With the
the rainbow shooting out.
No.
Is that
This
the-
is it's like a card game basically. Right?
Oh.
But you buy a cat,
Mhm.
right? Or you can mine a cat, and basically you get this NFT. And the older the generation of cats you have, the more expensive the cat gets.
Mm.
So if this game goes on for maybe 100 generations down of cats get created,
Mhm.
because of how rare your cat becomes, it becomes more expensive. So now what can happen though is that I can now lend you my cat so that your cat and my cat can create a new cat.
Hmm.
And now because of how rare my cat was, the value of your cat, the kitten that's created, is now more than the normal ones in their generation. What's going to now happen now, because now it's still in its early stages, right? What's going to happen later on, if it goes as far as it's predicted to go, you're going to have a lot of specific generation of cats which are now going to become collectibles. And people are going to be willing to spend a lot. Like right now, first generation Pokemon cards go for close to $1,000 or $2,000.
Yeah, but those are physical objects. You see, that's where my problem
So I think
lies, is the fact that
it's not physical.
you could forget your wallet key and things like that. And for me, I'm just like, imagine that happens. You finally get the NFT you're saving up for, or like the value increased, but you forget your wallet. I'm like, at least for a Pokemon trading card, you can actually play. There's still the aspect of playing the game. There's
I
still
don't
the
think
aspect.
people would buy
They
a first
won't,
generation
but
to
they
play.
can.
Yeah. Look, one
And they
thing,
still have the physical
before we go
option.
to the music break and actually go to what we're supposed to be speaking about,
Yeah.
just the last thing what I found interesting, and it's now me also now going a bit negative on the whole basically called Web3, right? It's quite funny how we've gone away from a paper age, where you need to write things down because now you put it on you put it on your computer because you might forget it, right? Where we're now going basically 360 back to write it down on a paper, put it in a safe. Because if anything happens to your PC, you need to know that you're able to get that back.
Yeah.
It's quite crazy because I recently signed up for one of these Web3 stuff, and then they like one of these wallets for crypto and stuff, and they basically said make sure you write these key phrases in different places, or the safest places to write it down on paper and put it in a safe.
Yeah.
I was like, but
Yeah, that kind of defeats the purpose.
isn't that why we came on the internet?
Yeah.
But anyway, before we carry on about NFTs, listen to this NFT track because it's originally on here. I tried to segue, I failed horribly on my segue. Listen to this track.
In Jesus' name, the chains break. In Jesus' name, the blind see. In Jesus' name, the lame walk. And all those who are listening to this music, let them be touched now by the power of Jesus. In Jesus' name, we declare that Africa will be saved. In Jesus' name, amen.
Active FM. Radio has never been better. Radio has never been better.
Welcome back. And yeah, we are looking at the startup culture.
Yeah.
So, like in the recent years, it's not new. It's not new.
Nothing under the sun.
Nothing under the sun is new. But basically, in the recent years, what's been happening is that we've been getting a lot of startups. So, for those out there who don't know what a startup is, it is starting up a business. I don't know if did I miss anything.
Wait. Did you just describe a startup as a starting up a business?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
So you couldn't, in English, you'd get no marks for that.
I know, because I used the word
This is
inside
the worst
the
description.
explanation.
What actually is startup culture?
So basically, what a startup is, right? What we first need to understand is what a startup is. And a startup is basically you coming and you are
creating
a business or a business
by trying to solve a problem.
that you see.
Yeah. But then I think most of startups are basically started in such a way. I think that's what's interesting for me, and how the whole startup culture and just business starting is very different. So business starting was basically, okay, we see a piece of land. There's like, okay, we have a farm there.
Yeah.
We're just gonna create a business from this and like go to market with it. So what was interesting for me with startup culture is basically most of the time it was a person or a couple of individuals would find a problem, begin to solve that problem, and realize that they're starting to make money from it.
Yeah.
And that's how it come to a place where they have to start a business. I always thought that was interesting with it, and I guess that's also what made it. I think also now it's not that there's more startups or more startups being created. It's just that startups are the cool thing to do. It's cool to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I think that's also a problem, but I'll get into that later.
And just some interesting stats. So this is basically from startupranking.com, right? The amount of startups per country. So guess what is the leading country for startups? Take a wild guess.
It's the land of the free.
Atlantis.
I don't get it.
Never mind.
I'm slow. It's just
Yeah, I know you're very slow.
It's a rough day.
It's a rough day indeed.
Yeah.
So it's Man United. Wow.
It's Man United.
It is United
The land
States.
of the startups, Man United. Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor indeed. United States has currently 69,722 startups this year.
That's insane.
That is insane. Followed by India with 11,000 startups.
What's the lowest on the list? I feel like nobody really cares like up until they've heard the first and the last.
Niger with one startup.
One startup.
They are currently tied with Chad, who's not here. With one startup. He's running his startup.
He's running his startup. That one is
That one. Burundi, Chad, a lot of African countries basically.
I was going to say something about that, but I'll also get into that later.
Okay.
Because what's interesting, okay, I'll say that. I'll say something about it now. What's interesting about that is that the countries that are higher on the charts and the lower on the charts, what you notice is that lower on the charts is the African countries.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the African countries, you'd think with all the resources and just a sheer amount of people there.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the US, not just the US, but just North America, South America, which
Yeah.
probably dominate the list, and Europe, and you look at Africa and I think your Asian countries also,
Yeah.
with just a population from basic statistics,
Yeah.
you'd think that there'd be more, how do I put it, startups. But yeah, it's just interesting thing to
see that
note. Yeah.
it's mostly on that side. I think one of the contributing factors to it is that the biggest industry in the whole startup market and this whole startup culture is basically technology. It's IT. So the country with the most amount of startups is America. And when you look at the startups that are in America, right? The first one is PixArt.
Yep.
I was about to say it so wrong. PixArt, right? Which is basically an editing app and creative community.
Yeah.
And then you look at the other one, it's Coursera. So this is ranked number 2 in the world.
Yeah.
The next one is Coursera, which is ranked number 4 in the world, which is an IT company.
Mm-hmm.
Then their third ranked one, which is globally ranked number 11, is Treehouse, which is an online learning platform. Then their fourth one, which is ranked 14th in the world, is HackerRank, which is an online platform and social media, right? Then their fifth one is Instachart, which is, guess what? An online platform. So I don't know if you're getting this. You see, if you're seeing here that it's the reason for it is that majority of them are just technology companies. And these countries that have the most startups and the best startups also have the best internet, have the best, what's the term?
Infrastructure around that.
Computer literacy rate. They have the highest computer literacy rates.
I don't even think it's just a computer I think it's a literacy rate. I think you got a spot. The literacy rate, actually.
And also, yeah, the literacy. And
I think if you just look at it from that perspective, because computer literacy is cool, because look at the third on the list.
Yeah.
It's Coursera, if I'm mistaken, just correct.
Yeah, the fourth globally and second.
It's Coursera,
in
which is
America.
an online learning platform.
Yeah.
So I think what we genuinely lack would be literacy in the standpoint of, okay, if you have basic literacy,
Yeah.
you can learn all the skills that are necessary to get far in the world that we live today. I think that's what's interesting about startup culture.
Yeah.
So, because even now, if you look at if we had more data in that aspect, we'd actually find that a lot of the people who started these startups are either dropouts or people who didn't go to school for the thing that they're busy with right now. And I think that's what's awesome about startup culture. But I'm not here to toot startup culture's horn. You are. I'm gonna give it the flag it deserves.
Okay, so then in that case, I have to give it its good things. I think what's also nice about startup culture is that it basically promotes more business. It promotes more startups. Because you look at a company like, and I'm probably going to get slack for the company choice I'm going to use, WeWork. You know, because of the fact, or because of the amount of startups that are popping up, and the price of property, especially in America, WeWork provided them to get, like, they would buy the building, and they'd provide you office space and shared office space. And a lot of these startup companies would actually then rely on WeWork for company space. And obviously now with COVID hitting and stuff, it destroyed that type of market over there, and obviously bad management. But WeWork was not the only one that did that. But, you know, companies now came in, because now with a lot of startup companies, it basically then brought a new problem to be solved, which then brought up a new startup, you know? And you look at the different, it's basically also pushes the industry it's in. Like you look at the space stuff. I lost the actual term, right? The space stuff.
Okay.
And you look at the little startup companies that have formed around that. And basically, what was nice was I was watching a documentary about one, and how they started up was that they basically outsourced a lot of their work. They outsourced a lot of their work to other little smaller companies that then helped them develop what they are today. I don't know if you want to give any flack on these points. These very well.
I always have flack. So I think the first thing for me is, Not everyone should. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Yeah.
And startup culture has created this mindset that everyone should be doing something in that scene. We're starting a new company, finding this great idea that's going to make you millions. But the problem that comes in that is that people do. And sometimes it is great ideas people come up with.
Yeah.
Sometimes they tweak something that's already been there and they
Yeah.
start something. But the problem is they think it's easy. And that's the problem. We've made it so that it looks as if it's I remember I was listening to something yesterday where like the way people are, we're programmed to think that an easy fix is always the best one. So
Yeah.
at school, it was always the thing of, okay, you can do your homework or you can ask your friend to give you their homework who you know is smarter than you and you get that homework done like that. Or you'll see that with Ponzi schemes that started in the 80s and the 90s. You look at things like MLMs, multi-level marketing schemes.
Yeah.
You look at the boom of foreign exchange and the scams around that. And
Yeah.
what you see is that people want to make a quick buck. And the problem is they don't understand the work that comes in that. All these
Yeah.
things can be legitimate, but because people don't want to put in the work, it never works out. And I feel like that's the problem. It's promoted the culture of, okay, you can start a startup. You should start a startup. But you don't understand how much work is put into it. You look at the greatest business people we have in the world, they don't have lives. A lot of them, I think if people understood the detriments to owning their own business, being an entrepreneur, having a startup, a lot of them wouldn't do it. I don't even recommend it for most people.
Yeah.
I remember I was having a conversation because I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was having a conversation with someone and they're like, no, I want to have, a family and do this and have time for all of that. I'm like, having a 9 to 5 wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah.
Because you can get to do all your work, make a good amount of money, and still have time for all of that.
Yeah.
Time for hobbies.
Look, there's one of my mentors basically is an entrepreneur, and he still has time for cycling. He still has time to do so many things, right?
I'll stop you right there. I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about, but look at the point he is at as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So
No,
that's the problem.
I was about to get to something. I'm not disagreeing with your point completely. I think it also comes down to, now this is also where the problem of these startups come in. With him, it took him time to basically build what he has. A lot of these people, they rush the process. They get 1 million or 2 million Series A funding, and now the pressure is on.
Yep.
The pressure is on, and what basically happens is now you have to basically, what would take you 2-3 years to build, you need to build it in half that time because the funding is here and people now want to see the results. And that's how it's been pitched. And the problem is, and I saw somewhere where they basically say that's the toxicity that comes out of the startup culture, where a lot of these young entrepreneurs basically ruin the taste of entrepreneurship because they rush the process.
Yep.
And it goes down to what you were saying about getting the quick buck. And yes, there's a process to get to where that role model I was telling you about, where he got to. It wasn't just an overnight success. It wasn't just he built this.
Yep.
And yes, there was a lot of time that was sacrificed. But I can tell you right now that it's not nearly the time that these startup culture people are going for. Because startup is, like I said, startup is basically just anyone who's starting in a finite form. It's anyone who starts up a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're starting up your own business to solve a specific problem, right? Or you can have a startup project where it's not really an entire business, but basically you're just wanting to complete a project, and the culture that's now been built around it is now mostly around making a quick buck, like you said, and that there is an issue. But I don't think, this is where I disagree, right? I don't think that as an entrepreneur, you give up as much as people generally think you do. I don't believe that the amount of time people think is given is actually given. I don't know if I make sense. You look at somebody like Elon Musk, who is one of the most hardworking people right now. And he still makes a lot of time for family. Some people, actually, even I don't know where he gets that time from, but it's there. A lot of his Saturdays are actually spent with his children.
But you see, I feel like you're having a fundamental misunderstanding of my point. It's a thing of now you're not differentiating between what is a startup and what is an actual business. You're making examples of actual businesses that have worked out. A startup is classified as a business in its first maybe 5, more, I think at max 7 years of being like from an idea to an actual business. So that's why it's called a startup.
Yeah.
So in that phase, yes, it requires a lot of your time.
No,
It's like raising an infant.
It does require a lot of your time.
You cannot say that, look at children now. They're 18. I never even see my child. They're fine. Of course, they're 18. But now you have to look at it from the perspective of, in the beginning, the initial phases, a lot of the drawbacks of it are not worth it for a lot of people. And that's my point. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that people just need to, because I feel like we forcibly pushed people in this direction without speaking about the detriments. And speaking of the whole venture capital, what I wanted to say about that is that I feel like that's a good direction that we're going into, but the problem is because now these venture capitalists have understood how the culture has worked out, and that a lot of people have great ideas, but they're not willing to put in the work and the time required to go through that 7 years of not making profit. Things like Twitter and all of that. What they do is things like pump and dumps, which you see in crypto, you see in like trading, you see in a lot of things. And I think it's always been a thing where what they would do.
What are pump and dumps? Forgetting not everyone.
Yes, I was going to explain that. So what they would do in an aspect, in a business sense, would be, okay, I look at your company, you have this great idea, I fund you, and I get you to the point where your idea is good enough that you have a small market, a small niche, and you're making some money. Yeah. I just get you to the point where you have an initial public offering. That's basically listing for the first time on a stock exchange. Yeah. That's where most companies want to get to. Yeah. Because now your shares are publicly traded. And then they get you to that point, they get you listed, and now people buy shares, obviously. And then they dump all of them. They sell everything that they own in you, and they just take their returns back. And what leaves companies, what the problem that leaves the companies with now is that, okay, now you're listed on a stock exchange or whatever, but now your share price, which is probably the most important thing to a publicly traded company, is horrible because now they sold a lot. Yeah. And that obviously tanks the price. And I think that's where another problem of mine comes, because now this is becoming normal, because we've seen that on a couple of examples before. And even with the whole stock market, you see things like WeWork, where because people have a fundamental misunderstanding of the kind of business it was, they can make up these crazy valuation numbers and get a lot of funding and then things come out like Theranos, things like WeWork. We've seen multiple examples of this, where now people realize, no, this isn't what we thought it was. The product wasn't what it was. Product didn't exist in Theranos. Is
still a crazy person.
That's like an amazing story, but it just shows you that I think we just don't have an understanding of what we're doing right now, and that kind of scares me because this is just how a bubble is created.
No, I hear you, right? Just to quickly go back to my earlier on point, I don't think you understood what I was saying. Because remember, the first part I contrasted with what you're saying about startups. Then I went to entrepreneurs like themselves overall. Hence why I said that with entrepreneurs, sometimes I think we think that they use up more time than they actually, we think that they. I even forgot the point now. But yes, that point was for entrepreneurs. For startups alone was the first point I made. But basically, just to move on, I think with what you're saying can also be seen in the first few years of a company like Facebook, when they were still a startup. Because they were offered a lot of money by different companies, And basically you see...
I think what was cool with them is that these companies kind of try to rely on the fact that the owners of Facebook, whoever they are, were inexperienced and didn't understand the value of their product. And I guess that's the other side of that argument, where it's like, okay, they can use that to their advantage. Luckily, the Zuck didn't
sell.
And now we have the metaverse. Continue with your point.
But it's like that. It's that thing where what you're talking about, whereby these guys will come in, they'll give them a whole lot of money. These guys will just see the money. And then they would take that, and then later on they get dumped.
Yeah.
Whereby if they took what the approach Facebook took, whereby they only took a lot of money from like Microsoft,
Yeah.
and wasn't a huge amount of shares.
Just
you know?
funding, basically.
And
not-
basically, when they got to a point of being public, even if Microsoft pulled away, it was not going to really hurt them that much.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess that's the overall point. But another point to be made is that we are at the end of the show.
Yes. And I hope we've made our point.
To you,
Yeah.
as I point at you, because you made a nice joke.
Yes. To the
But
listeners.
from us, the pointers.
Yeah. Point of
DJ
order.
Point of order. We are signing out. Peace.
Totsins.
You can take my morning, turn it into dancing, Lord. Take a broken vessel, put it back together, Lord. Everybody, let's go crazy. You can take a start and turn them into something beautiful. Every moment you have meant that, that's just what your goodness does. You make all things new. You make all things beautiful. Jesus, you rose again, defeated death, and now I live. You make all things new. All things new.
Enjoying the Active FM shows? Well, then catch us on Instagram at ActiveFM777, Twitter and Gab at ActiveFM, Facebook at ActiveFM/777, as well as YouTube at ActiveFM and our website at www.activefm.co.za. Don't stop, don't hesitate, find, follow and enjoy us on all our different platforms. You don't want to miss out.
Active FM. Radio has never been better.